Thanks for trying anyway, Diego. Yes, I got a message from Jeffrey on Flying Fish yesterday. We weren't heard at down there either. Down there he was at Cooktown in Australia. I should say up there, I suppose, from here. But yeah, conditions are not good going west at the moment, which is interesting because a while back we were talking quite easily to Alan. All right, good morning, everybody. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH 286, Patricia and David. And we have another very calm morning. I tell you what, if you were a windsurfer or a kiter here, you'd be very disappointed lately. It has just been flat calm. Absolutely zero wind from the southeast. And I know that sounds very Irish, but the boats are in fact facing southeast. But there is no wind at the moment. But it is cold, 12 degrees, 1, 2. I tell you what, it's no wonder I've got a lot of noise from the passing high tension wires because everybody will have their heaters on. 1016 and steady on the bar. It's about 25% cloud cover, I suppose, just a little bit of cloud on the horizon, a bit of sort of mare's tails sort of high overhead. Nothing much at all, really. I'm not sure what the overall picture is. We've been too busy to sort things out. Not too many people on passage. We do have non-stop going from Savu Savu to the Hapais. They've got to about 177 west at the moment. And the wind they've actually had the engine on until not so long ago. The wind has veered to the south. It's now about 6 to 11. From a 170 magnetic, so at least they are sailing now, very slight seas, so very pleasant, 1012.5 and steady. So a good trip for them going in that rather strange direction. I had to chuckle. Arca gave us what David was talking about, the lazy meteorologists in Fiji yesterday, and Arca said that there has been no Lambasa radar since June. Thanks for that, Francine. So they need a bit of maintenance on things there. Anyway, good morning to everybody who is with us this morning on streaming or on the end of the radio. It's pretty noisy here. Mr. Troy also called in. Sounds very pleasant in Vanuatu. 23 degrees, 15 knots from the southeast in Kuhela. If you are on frequency now, I think that's what you'll probably be getting when you head out towards Port Vila. So let's have a look at what news there is. I don't think there's any weather has come through on yet. Oh yes, there is. Valak, they're always up good and early in the morning. Good morning to Randall and Ruth. They have got southeast 4 to 6. Wow, that's not very strong, is it? 1014.5, 80%. And they're still at Cousteau. Everyone seems to enjoy the diving at Cousteau. I know we did when we were there. So there's plenty of places to go, and there's evidently a very good dive shop there, which we didn't explore. We probably should have, but we just sort of headed out.
They didn't have one.
They didn't have one then.
No.
Oh no, they probably didn't.
No.
The big excitement and tragedy for them was catching a mahi-mahi and then watching a second mahi-mahi chaser trying to get the red squid lure, but they lost it. Oh dear, poor gaff technique. Well, I tell you what, yes, you do get very disappointed when the crew, and that was me, don't gaff it properly. It's actually quite nerve-wracking as a crew because on our boat, 2 people, David, the first thing we did when we had a fish on was completely strip off because it's a lot easier to clean blood off a body than it is off clothes, as you well know. So the first thing we did was strip off. Then the crew, i.e. me, would bring the boat sort of into wind, take down a jib if that was if we were really scooting along, go and get all of the gaff and various what's that little Japanese thing called? The eki stick. And that was while David was hauling it in. So by the time he got it to the side of the boat, I would be standing there with the gaff. And it's a pretty long gaff, and it's not exactly easy when you're sailing along. This is me giving excuses. But anyway, you go stab, and of course you really don't want to hit the side of the boat. So when this thing is thrashing around, it is actually quite nerve-wracking, and I'm telling you this for the captains who are hauling the fish in, that it's not easy and it's quite nerve-wracking for the crew. So anyway, with a bit of luck, you gaff it right at the gills, do the job perfectly, pass the gaff to the heavier person to lift it on board, and then deal with it. But anyway, they lost it. So I'm sure that they'll be able to find somewhere in Savu Savu to have a nice meal. And let's face it, if you don't bring the fish on board, you don't have to deal with the mess. Okay, local talents at the Fog Harbour, Vanuatu. Oh, no weather, but I'm sure it's a bit cloudy there. Let's go with a little bit of news. Quite a hell of a lot going on in the world. South Korea actually had a bit of excitement. Well, their Air Force did. They fired 360 rounds at a Russian jet that came into its airspace, not once but twice yesterday. So that was quite exciting. No idea why. In 1990, Korea, this is South Korea and Russia, re-established diplomatic relations because prior to that, Russia had been supplying the North. So I'm not sure why they are upset with South Korea and why they got into their airspace, but I suppose it was good practice for the South Korean Air Force. A shipwreck has been found in the Baltic Sea, 500 years old in absolutely perfect condition. It is in a secret place because they want to keep people away from it, but I suspect it's closer to Sweden than anywhere else because it's being reported by Swedish and British scientists. The hull is intact as well as its mast and some rigging, and there is a small tender on the deck, and it's got all sorts of other bits of boating stuff that they can see and look at. It's late 15th century, maybe early 16th century. It does have swivel guns on it, but they think it's just a merchant ship that, because of the conditions at the time, they had to protect themselves. It's getting that way here, isn't it? Particularly if you are trying to get through the state of the Straits of Hormuz. The Iranians are certainly milking that for all it's worth at the moment. It's still a major problem. They still have the ships from Britain. There's a lot of noise coming from Britain because most people are really upset about the very wimpy response that Britain has given. But finally today, and we'll get on to that in a minute, their new Prime Minister, Mr Johnson, may do something about it. But yes, at the moment, all that's happening is, well, up till this morning when Mr Johnson was announced, Theresa May's spokesperson was the one doing the wimpy responses, and they have actually agreed now to have a big talk fest in Vienna. China, Russia, the UK, France, Germany, and the rest of the EU will have a talk fest to see what can be salvaged from the Iran nuclear deal. Frankly, I don't think there will be much given the current situation. But the UK now wants a European-led naval force to ensure safe shipping. Poor Maggie Thatcher, she will be turning in her grave at such a wimpy response. But anyway, that's what's happening there, nothing much at all. Anyway, let's go to Boris Johnson, who has now been announced as the new Prime Minister of Britain. He will have a bit of a mess to deal with, not forgetting that several of the parliamentarians on the Conservative side in the Cabinet have resigned and they're probably being fired by him.
Exactly.
He doesn't have an awful lot of friends there, but anyway, he's going to have quite a lot to do. He's going to have to sort out what they do with the Iranian situation as the first thing on his desk. It's interesting, and I must look up how we actually elect our Prime Minister. Not like America at all. We don't vote as a people for the Prime Minister. We vote for the party. And in the UK, it's kind of similar but different. Only the members of the Conservative Party can send in their votes, which had to be in yesterday for the new Prime Minister. You had to be a paid-up party member, and that means you had to have paid £25 to be a party member, and that had to have been there for at least 3 months. And evidently there were 160,000 people in Britain who are members of the Conservative Party, and they're not exactly a reflection of the people in Britain. 70% of those in the party are comfortably well-off white males, 70%, and half of them are over 50. That's half of everybody is over 50. So 97% of them are white. So it's not exactly what you would say a reflection of the current population of Britain, but nevertheless they have now made their decision, and Mr. Boris Johnson will take over what remains of any strength that the UK have. So that's what's happening finally. It'd be actually lovely not to open the page and see what's going on there, although we'll probably just get back to what Mr. Trump is doing. Let's go on to Southeast Asia. There are now, unfortunately, drug-resistant strains of malaria in Southeast Asia. Thailand, Cambodia, Laos and Vietnam all have these strains that they cannot kill off. So one's going to have to be very careful travelling in Southeast Asia. If you want to go somewhere where there are no mosquitoes, you go to Algeria or Argentina. They were declared malaria-free in May. I guess you'd probably die from lead poisoning in Algeria, but you could try Argentina and probably go alcoholic on their beautiful Malbec. But anyway,
top of Mount Everest or some mosquitoes.
Probably the top of Mount Everest would be a good place to go, but it's a bit crowded at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. India, this is quite exciting news, particularly as it's the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. They have now successfully launched a rocket that will hopefully land a spacecraft on the southern side of the moon. That is the agreed southern side of the moon. I still get irritated by a southern side in a place that's got no well, anyway, I won't go into that. Anyway, the aim is to collect water samples, and it will arrive in September. And they are hoping to have a manned spacecraft by 2022.
It's the Indians?
This is the Indians. Isn't that surprising? I mean, you just don't think of India as having, you should have, well, for us here, you think of Indians as running dairies. You don't think of them as having a lot of scientists. Mind you, they're pretty good on their electronic stuff. But anyway, they have manned space flight goal by 2022. Tomorrow, if you're in America, you'll probably be watching the live telecast of Mr. Mueller's appearance before Congress to discuss his report covering the Russian tampering during the last presidential election.
2.5 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, these things, you can see why I struggle sometimes to get news, because things just come round and round and round. Okay, that's about it for what I really want to cover news-wise this morning. What else have we got here? Havana Harbour, one of our favourite spots. Wind 5 knots from the east-southeast, 20% cloud cover. And what else? Barrow 1014, much colder than we like it. Oh God, just as well Alicia's not here, they would be really feeling cold. Where are we? Hog Harbour, this is Mesa Troy, a local talented down there, 10 to 12 knots from the southeast, 22 degrees, 1012. Alright, what else is there? Muscat Cove, going over to there, 22, it's pretty constant, isn't it? 1012.5, 8 to 12 knots southeast, 75% cloud cover. Thank you for that. And I'm just looking. No mess on the boat is a poor consolation prize. Yes, well, I agree, Ruth. It would be nice to have got the mahi-mahi on the ballot. Ruth falls and Randall tries to get, so the loss is on him. So there you have it. Every boat has their different way of doing things. I wonder if they strip off too. Anyway, that's about it from the news here, and it's bang on 7:30, so I'm passing the microphone, and we'll try and find Tuaki later on. It's certainly not very good conditions at the moment for trying to find them before we start. But here's David. Probably sleeping.
All right, good morning. Oh, right on time, too. We're getting very professional here. And good morning, of course. And our stationary high, yes, it's still present. Center roughly 50, 50, way down there, 50 and 170 west. And the pressure, very strong still, 1038, 1038 millibar. Now, the subtropical depression that was formed by our 500 millibar shortwave and the subtropical jet stream, we talked about that for a few days now. That depression has moved. The center is now roughly 38 and 155 west. The pressure 985 millibar, 985, and between these two features, the depression and the strong high, the squash zone. The squash zone is fierce. We're looking at 45 to 50 knots in that area. Now, the depression itself is moving east, and soon it's going to be out of our area of interest. It's going to keep on going, but it's going to be a worry for the Polynesians and not really for us. Now, by lunch on Friday, a couple days from now, this high that we're talking about, it's really a blocking high, frankly. It stays virtually where it is presently, but lo and behold, on its left shoulder, yet again, another new depression forms. And that center is going to be about 32 and 170 east. So once more, there we have it. In the meantime, the Oz high, the anticyclone that's over southeastern Australia, that remains intact, still over southeastern Queensland, and it's about 1025 millibar, 1025. Now, these depressions, by the way, that I'm talking about, they've pulled so much energy out of the cruising route area that there really isn't much in the way of a gradient. So there isn't much wind between 25 south and the islands. I would say about 10 to 15 knots from the south-southwest, shifting easterly by Friday, and less than 10 knots at that point. However, here we go again. We'll say hello to another trough for Fiji and Tonga, and this will be Friday and Saturday. So enjoy what you've got now. Things will change again. Now, at the moment in the tropics, the Solomons Trough, still active, runs now past the Santa Cruz Islands. And then it goes between Wallis and Futuna. This is the axis of it now. The cloud is much broader. So it runs between Wallis and Futuna, touches Samoa, and then it goes eastward from there. Now we have a second trough, and that's just north of Tokelau, and it runs to the northern hooks. Then it takes a dive to the southeast. Now cloud from we'll call it the Solomons Trough, does reach Fiji and Tonga. And by the weekend, the axis of the trough is going to drop south and probably lie over the two island groups. So here we go again. Wallis now, they're looking at cloud and scattered showers. In fact, pretty much through the weekend. Winds less than 10 knots today, east-southeast, picking up a bit tomorrow. I would say 10 to 15. Really not much wind at all. Pretty warm, 27, 28 C. Over the next few days, I'd say your water tanks should be full at that point. It's not that the rain is extremely heavy, but, well, at times it could be. But being fairly steady does give a chance for the tanks to get full. Now, down to Tonga. Imagery shows scattered to broken cloud, mostly from the trough to the north. Expect pretty much isolated showers today and tomorrow as well. The winds light to moderate south-southwest today, and tomorrow south-southeast, and we'll call it 10 to 15 knots. And by the weekend, the Solomon's trough, as I said earlier, does drop south, bringing trough conditions to Tonga. Rain Saturday, looks like it to me. Winds, I would say 15 to 20, maybe getting up to 25, mostly out of the southeast then. Now, actuals, Vavau this morning reports calm conditions, scattered to broken, temperature 16 degrees, dew point 16. It's very wet there. 10-12 on the barometer. The Hapai's variable 2 knots, scattered, and there are quite a bit of towering cumulus in the Hapai's. There were yesterday as well, and 10-12 on the bar. And down in Tongatapu, we had west winds at 4 knots, scattered, and 10-13, 1013 millibar. Now, Fiji lies under a layer of cloud as well early this morning. Again, part of the active Solomon's trough. Although Vanuatu Met is actually distinguishing this feature, they're calling it a quasi-stationary front. I would tend to agree with them looking at the satellite imagery quite closely. There is definitely 2 separate activities going on there, so we'll call it a quasi-stationary front. Either way, there is a pretty good chance of isolated showers, no matter what you want to call it. The winds south-southeast 10 to 15, and picks up, I believe, on Thursday 15 to 20. In some areas, we'll get up to about 25 knots, although from Kindavu, both to the south, and so from Kindavu eastward then, the winds will be a little bit lighter than that. So we do get quite a bit of a variation of wind. Radar this morning shows scattered showers about the group. A few concentrations around Undu Point, as an example, to Taveuni, and then Nassori down to Kindavu, that sort of thing. And then there's little splotches here and there showing isolated showers, very light showers. And some observations. Undu Point was southeast 13, 10-12 barometer. Yasawa is east 10, 10-12 as well. Vanua Balavu up in the northern Lao, southeast at 7, 10-16. And Nandi was southeast 4, 10-13. And Nassori, northwest 4, 10-13 as well. And Matuku, southeast 2, barometer 10-13. And Ono, Kindavu, south 3, 1014. And over to Vanuatu now, and on imagery, we really have a mix of fair weather and broken cloud. Wind southeast, I'd say around lunchtime, we're looking at 15 to 20, and about the same thing tomorrow. Now that Solomon's trough, the one that I talked about dropping south over Fiji and Tonga on Saturday, that's probably going to stay north of Vanuatu at that point. So that's good news. Unless, of course, you need to fill up your water tanks. So no real drama for Vanuatu over the next few days. I'll give you some actuals. This morning, Sola was calm, broken. They had recent showers, 10-11. Santos, southeast 6, scattered to broken, barometer 10-12. Efate, northeast at 5, scattered 10-14. Tanna was calm, scattered, also 10-14. And lastly, down at Venetian, calm again, scattered to broken. Recent rain there, and barometer 1015. So that is Vanuatu. Moving over to New Caledonia, that shows a mix of fair to scattered cloud. Not really bad at all. The winds today around lunchtime, southeast about 10 to 15. That's for the southern lagoon. Much the same tomorrow. The outer reef conditions early this morning, southeast 11, gusting up to 17. And Ile de Pan, southeast at 6. And Noumea reports east-northeast 8. The temperature was 16 this morning in Noumea, 16. A little bit nippy. So there you go, folks. That's the sum of the weather. And with that, I'll pass it over to the chief, see if you have any questions.
Yeah, I was just looking at where Whistler are at Bay de Gahi. It's a lovely sheltered bay up there in Wallace. Good morning to you guys. I can see why you got some showers yesterday with that picture of the rather stormy sky. Just showing David here. Sorry about that. All right, is there anybody with anything? And I would like to hear Tuaki call in if you are able to copy us. We're standing by for any calls. But I hear nothing here. Is there any relay? Well, it's very staticky, noisy, but nothing heard here and nothing much more on the streaming. So we will leave you all in peace. I don't think there's anything more coming through on our emails either. Just a message for those people who know Trevor and Jan on Villamee. They sold their boat, by the way. It's now in the South Island. They are busy home building at the moment, and it seems to be going really well. They're getting all the floors down today for the kitchen to arrive in a week or so's time. So they're very good. Aradonna, who you will also know, they're in Norway at the moment. It's pretty nippy in Norway, even though it's summer. I'll give you a bit more news from them tomorrow. All right, that's about it from us. We will leave you all for your day. Have a good day, everybody, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Cheers, all the frequencies yours. Boy, it's noisy.